Hello and welcome back to my channel. Now, the last time I checked in, I talked about how busy I was with school and work and how I was going to be taking a break from video uploads. So far, not much has changed. I'm still more busy than ever, but we're coming up on Halloween, which is my favorite holiday of the year. It's also the title of my favorite horror franchise. And wouldn't you know it, Halloween Kills was just released earlier this month.
I'm coming for you, Michael.
Which means I had no choice but to put aside all my studies and work responsibilities so I can go out and watch it. Now, before I go into my review, I just wanted to talk about the overall cinema experience. Thanks to COVID, this was my first time in a theater in over a year, and I must say, I didn't realize how much I missed it. If you had asked me before what I liked most about theaters, probably would have been, the big screen, the surround sound, things like that. What I didn't realize I would appreciate as much was sitting in a crowd of people, seeing and hearing everybody else's reaction. It's just such a social way to watch a movie, which is nothing new, we all know that, but I guess I didn't realize how much that meant to me. So I'm glad I saw this in theaters, and I recommend you do the same. Okay, now on to the movie. Halloween Kills is part 2 of David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy. We had Halloween back in 2018, now Halloween Kills, and this time next year we'll have Halloween Ends. And this was pretty much all I knew about Halloween Kills going into it, that it was part 2 of a trilogy, because I made a decision way back when this was announced that I wasn't going to be watching any trailers or previews. I didn't read anything about the plot. I didn't even look up any of the actors or the characters. I didn't want to know anything about this going in. I just wanted to be able to enjoy the movie as it happens. Because to me, there's just something so exciting about going into a highly anticipated movie not knowing anything. And if you can relate to that, then I recommend you leave this review now because there's going to be a lot of spoilers here. Now, if you've already seen the movie, or you don't care about spoilers, then here we go. Halloween 2018 ended on a cliffhanger with Michael Myers trapped in a burning building. Well, surprise, he escapes. And from there, he goes on a non-stop killing spree. No joke, this movie's body count is just outrageous. I have no idea how many people he killed. I wouldn't even know where to begin to count. With very few exceptions, Michael Myers kills everybody he sees. At the same time, Laurie is taken to a hospital where she stays pretty much the entire movie. So any confrontation you thought that might take place between her and Michael, it's all going to be in the next movie. So with Michael killing everyone and Laurie stuck in a hospital, we're left with the locals of Haddonfield who band together and try and take out Michael themselves. A lot like the plot from Halloween 4. Only here, the group of vigilantes gets so riled up that they basically cause the death of an innocent person who they confuse for being Michael Myers. And the last thing this movie does, which is really interesting, is it gives the backstory of how Michael was captured after the original movie. And that's where I want to start with what I liked about Halloween Kills. The flashbacks back to 1978 were amazing. Halloween 2 was the first Halloween I ever saw. It was the only one my family owned when I was a kid, and I watched it countless times before I ever even saw the original. So all of the scenes that took place right after Michael was shot out of the balcony, they're all pretty much etched in my brain forever. Which is why I was so impressed with how these flashbacks turned out. They got the whole atmosphere just perfect. The 1970s style of film, all the houses and the back alleys between them, and especially Michael. The way he walked, his mask, it all came together to make such a surreal moment. It felt like I was watching deleted scenes from part 2. In fact, these flashback scenes, they might be my favorite part of the movie. They were that good. And I hope there are more flashbacks in the next movie. I'd really like to see what else they can add. The next thing that stands out as being one of the best parts of Halloween Kills is the kills. I already mentioned it before, the kill count is just through the roof, and the kills are so gruesome here. This is not only the deadliest and bloodiest Halloween movie to date, this is the deadliest and bloodiest slasher movie that I've ever seen. And I especially love how Michael just indiscriminately kills anybody. Which brings me to why I'm so happy they eliminated Halloween 2 from canon. With the exception of the original, all the Halloween movies had Michael Myers killing people in order to get to his family. Well, that's no longer the case here. Michael goes around killing people just to kill people. That's just what he wants to do. And there's one scene in particular that I'm thinking of that shows this. After Michael kills some guy, he just keeps stabbing him with every knife he can find around the kitchen. I'm not sure if he's doing this because he's looking for like the perfect knife, or if he just really likes stabbing people. Either way, I find it just such a haunting scene that really gives you a glimpse into the pure evil desire that he has to kill. Not to mention his complete lack of remorse for anyone that gets in his way. Pretty much, if for no other reason than to see Michael Myers be a badass for an hour and a half, this movie is worth your time. Something else that seems kind of minor, but I really liked about Halloween Kills was how progressive it is. They kind of set the tone back in Halloween 2018, especially with how they challenged the idea of masculinity. Like having Allison and Cameron dress up as the opposite gender to play Bonnie and Clyde. Or having that boy who was obsessed with dance.
I enjoy it, but I'm missing dance class for this, and it really hits me in the heart.
Well, in Halloween Kills, they really bring it to the next level. I'm thinking in particular of that couple where she's the doctor and he's the nurse. They also have a gay couple, an interracial couple. And none of it seems like they put it in just to check a box. All of the characters, they seem genuine. These little elements, they really stand out, and I appreciate the effort, especially for a horror slasher flick. Now, before I go into the bad, I have a few things that I'm mixed about. The whole subplot where the Haddonfield community band together to try to take out Michael themselves, there was some really interesting aspects to this. You know, even though they had good intentions, the group was ultimately corrupted with like mob mentality. They spiraled out of control to the point where they pretty much killed an innocent person. It was the movie's attempt to show how evil can infect the community. It caused its people to become so enraged with violence that they themselves became evil. It's an interesting idea, but the execution was just awful. The mob just became like so huge, so quick. I mean, over the course of just a few hours, almost the entire population of Haddonfield got wrapped up in this cult, for lack of a better word, and all the dialogue between all these people was just so cringy, and it got even worse when they started chanting their cringy lines. Everything about this mob was just so rushed. It did not feel like a natural progression. If anything, it just felt too in your face and forced. Something else I'm mixed about is the behavior of most of the victims. There were a few people who were like legit attacked by Michael, but the vast majority of them, they were only killed because they were so stupid. They weren't going where they should be going. They weren't calling the cops when they should have been calling the cops. It felt like they were just hanging out and waiting for their turn to be killed. And the reason this is a mixed complaint by me is because it feels like a double standard. Slasher movies are notorious for having stupid victims. The difference here is it just happens so many times. It feels like almost the entire population of Haddonfield are just a bunch of idiots. Okay, now on to the last couple of things about this movie that I absolutely did not like. First of all, there were just too many characters. The movie really made an effort to try and incorporate as many people from the original as possible. There's the kids that Laurie was babysitting, Tommy Doyle and Lindsay Wallace. There's Lonnie, that kid who bullied Tommy.
The boogeyman is coming. Leave me alone.
There's Marion Chambers, the nurse who was with Dr. Loomis the night Michael escaped. And there's Officer Brackett. All these characters were brought back and given a backstory. But since there were so many characters, nobody's backstory was very good or memorable. And spoiler alert, most of them die anyway. So who cares? It just felt so weird to have so much effort put into bringing back so many people from the original, only to kill them off. I mean, these characters could have been anybody. They didn't need to be people from the original. It didn't make me like them anymore. If anything, it felt more disrespectful to the original characters. If they really wanted to bring back someone, they should have just stuck with Lonnie. He was really the only one mentioned in the previous movie, so it makes sense that he was there. But as for everybody else, it was just too much. Okay, now for my final complaint. But before I go into it, I feel like I gotta give you one last warning. Unless you want the ending of this movie ruined, you should go now. I know there were a lot of deaths, and for a slasher, that's a good thing. But there were 2 deaths in particular that I just hated. The first one being Cameron. They did him wrong in this movie. In Halloween 2018, he was basically painted to be a jerk, and then he was never seen again. But in Halloween Kills, he took a much more active role in trying to help. He apologized to Allison. He helped his dad track down Michael Myers. He's even the very first character you see in the very first scene of the movie. So I really felt like this was going to be his redemption story, which is why I was surprised and disappointed when he was killed. Now don't get me wrong, his death scene was amazing. It just didn't seem necessary. And the second death that I did not like was Karen's. Now don't get me wrong, she's such an annoying character. And just for the sake of me not liking her, I'm glad she's dead. But I feel like it was a giant slap in the face to what David Gordon Green created in the first place. Laurie Strode, back in Halloween 2018, was a nervous wreck. Everybody, including Karen, her own daughter, thought she was crazy. But by the end, because Laurie was so well prepared, she was ultimately able to save her family. Which is why Karen's death at the end of Halloween Kills is so stupid. Everything Laurie worked for, all the hardships she went through, being the crazy one, is now all for nothing. Which is too bad, because it would have been nice to have them follow through with the narrative that Laurie Strode had something to do with protecting her family. Well, that pretty much does it with my first impressions of Halloween Kills. It was definitely a step down from Halloween 2018. There was just too much going on, and I think it really could have benefited from eliminating a lot of the characters. It also would have helped if it was a little longer. They could have spent more time developing the underlying social commentary, because the way they did it was just too rushed and forced and awkward and cringy. Even still, I think it's a worthy addition to the Halloween franchise. I'm very happy with it, and I look forward to seeing how David Gordon Green will end it next year.
You don't believe in the boogeyman? You should.
The saga of Michael Myers and Laurie Strode isn't over.
Happy Halloween, Michael.
Halloween ends.
Thanks for watching, everyone. And for those of you who stuck around to the end of this video, I wanted to give you a personal update on how I'm doing. I'm just about finished up with my first semester of school. I'm still in class full-time as a student and working in a high school part-time as a student teacher. Next semester, which is in January, it will flip. I'll be in class part-time as a student and student teaching at the high school full-time. It's a very busy time in my life. There's lots of readings and reflections and writing lesson plans, but there's one particular assignment that I wanted to share. I had to give a video presentation on my literacy history, and I must say, if this YouTube hobby of mine prepared me for anything in life, it was this assignment. It was probably the easiest and funnest presentation I ever had to give for school. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below if you want to check it out. Thanks again for staying to the end of the video. I appreciate your support. I don't know when I'll get my next video out, but until then, let's not just watch movies. Let's talk about them too. Feels weird being in front of the camera again.